Hi everybody, my name is Jesse Daniels and welcome back to Wrestling on the Fly. This is the Queensland Wrestling Podcast focusing on wrestlers that reside in and wrestle in Queensland. And today we have got an excellent guest taking a part of this. He is the leader of the Worst Generation, number 35 on the PW Down Under list. He is the former Atomic Pro Wrestling Heavyweight Champion, the former IPW Heavyweight Champion as of last night. Ladies and gentlemen, the Worst, Chad Atlas.
Thank you for having me, Jesse. It's that former next to the heavyweight champion. It stings, and it's going to keep stinging for a very long time.
I am not going to lie, I was a bit shocked at the news I woke up to this morning and seeing that you had been defeated, mind you, from what I saw, dubious circumstances and people definitely ganging up on you. Am I incorrect?
Absolutely. Sledgehammer had me outnumbered in the ring. He had the presence of the Samoan Lionheart Toa in what I can only assume was some sort of collusion between the two of them. And absolutely, the story is still going. The story has not yet been finished, so I will have words about what happened last night.
I hope so. And of course, this is IPW's Beach Riot down at the Dreamworld Night Market. And I think it was about this time last year that IPW really started off at the night markets. Am I correct?
Just about our debut show, our first appearance in partnership with Dreamworld was March. So yeah, so very similar time of year, March 2023, 24.
So this is going to be good because I'm talking to the guy who has undoubtedly led the locker room, led the company for this entire period, right? So how has being at Dreamworld for IPW affected the company in terms of growth and opportunities? Because right now what we're seeing in Queensland is a lot of growth and a lot of opportunities coming to fruition, and I think that for Queensland wrestlers, we've been on the back burner for a long time, and it really is our moment to grab a hold of.
Yeah, 100%. It's been an enormous shot in the arm for what we do. I mean, the wrestling has grown to fit this larger stage, fit this bigger stage we have. Everyone involved, from the talent in the ring, people backstage, the production, the media, has all had to level up, and it has, which has been awesome to see. In terms of opportunity for a stage for the guys on the stage, right? It's been awesome because that's been something that's then gone on to, the partnership with the Titans, getting the chance to travel overseas, all these other opportunities as well. And it's become competitive. It's become really competitive to get those spots because we have to hold it to a higher standard. So, our rookies and journeyman wrestlers on the way up through the sweatshop, through the school, they have to work so much harder because they don't just have to get onto an IPW show now. They now have to get to the point to get onto an IPW show at Dreamworld. And that's, I think, obviously it's a challenge. I mean, not for me, but for them, it's a challenge. And I think eventually it's going to get to the point where it produces a better caliber of wrestler long term.
I think that's an excellent answer. And you did mention, like, in terms of going overseas, it was very recently that you were in New Zealand wrestling and taking a part of getting out, getting your name out there, and doing international travel. Tell us about that.
New Zealand was awesome. It was such a cool trip to get the chance to go on. It was something that my lovely partner sprung on me as my 30th present. Was the plan to go to New Zealand to travel there. I'd never been. It was my first time visiting the country. My dad is from New Zealand. He's an Australian citizen
Sorry.
now, but yep.
No, you're fine. Just your dad being a Kiwi. I'm sorry.
Yes, yeah. Oh, right, okay. I thought you lost me on the call. No,
We
yeah,
we
he's
have
naturalized now. We had some technical difficulties to start with, and I was scared they were cropping up again.
No,
No,
no, no.
he's
You're all good. You're all good. That's my mistake.
he had the brain surgery. Depending on who you talk to, when you become a Kiwi becomes an Australian, they either put the brain in or take the brain out, depending on which side of the ditch you're on. So it was a really cool trip to have a holiday, and then also an awesome opportunity from the point of view of wrestling. I got the chance to appear as part of Capital Pro Wrestling, which is the Wellington-based promotion, one of the major promotions there, and then also IPW New Zealand. It's obviously very close ties in the past, back in the day, with guys like Hawk, Cruz from IPW Australia. So there was a lot of history there. Very cool opportunity to work with a brand new crowd, a brand new audience, and a brand new group of wrestlers. And to be, I went back and checked. As far as I've been able to tell, and as far as we've been able to find out, it is the first international defense of the IPW Australia heavyweight title in 16 years, which was a very cool moment to have. I won, obviously, but yeah, very cool to take that over.
100%. Well, you can't be the worst leader of the worst generation, Chad Atlas, go to New Zealand and come back a loser. That's not how that works. You have to come back.
Absolutely not.
Otherwise, you lose the entire name. You just become Chad Atlas. Like,
yeah. And who wants to be that guy?
You need the moniker. It needs to be there. So talking about the moniker, the worst generation, Chad Atlas. Now I think I know where that comes from, but tell us your inspiration for what you have done with your gimmick, especially in the last year, because in the last year there has been so much growth from you and so much broadening of horizons. How has that all intertwined?
So the first draft, the first idea that I came with was the high school bully that's all grown up. That was sort of that was the ground. That was where I started as the simple idea that I would then take and go on with it. I think sort of being a champion, being represented as a champion, sort of evolved that a little bit to an embracing of being the villain, right? Because you'll see when you look at heels, they sort of, broadly speaking, fall into two categories, I think. There's the heels that know that they're heels, and then there's the ones that don't, right? They're the ones who think that, oh no, I'm right. I am correct. You know, you're not, I deserve this, right? This is what I deserve. Like that's, Kevin Owens, his heel work right now is, I think, the best heel work of his career, because it's coming from a place where he genuinely believes every single word that he says. That's awesome. Such a cool way to do it. But I wanted to lean into the fact of being the worst, being the villain, because if I can look them in the eye, whether it's my opponent, whether it's the audience, whatever, and I look them in the eye and I tell them to their face that I'm going to be a scumbag, I'm going to be the worst thing that you've seen, what are you going to do about it?
I like that. I like that take on, you can be a refreshing heel, And I think that's something that you do really, really well. You're able to actually get into your opponent's face and be like, hey, I'm going to say that I'm going to do this, but I'm actually going to do this, and you're going to have to deal with this. And I love that. I love being able to see snippets of it, and everything that you've done with it has been refreshing, and it's something that I've enjoyed watching, personally.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes. So speaking specifically about the worst generation as well, if I can though, it was something that I was looking at. You can always tell when you talk to wrestlers what era they grew up watching, like where their wrestling journey started. And for me, it was it was 2006 to 2009. It was Legacy. It was Prime Randy Orton. It was that sort of thing. And I always liked the idea of, a menace, absolute menace. Kissing unconscious Stephanie, burning Tripp's house down. Oh, so good.
It was like
and I always liked...
The guy and just gone, you're not gonna get penalized for anything you want to do. And he's gone, anything?
Yep. So it's what got me into wrestling. It was what made me fall in love with wrestling. Was that time, um, Cena at the '08 Rumble? That was a huge moment for me watching all that sort of stuff. But what I really liked was the group working together, and even later on, guys like factions like the Nexus as well. The first go around of them, where it was everyone was on the same page, committed, and they were all on the same path, on the same journey. So picking the worst generation, obviously in hindsight, I made at least one mistake in letting Sledgehammer in. That turned out to not work so well for me. But like an 80% strike rate's pretty good. And in having that sort of that young, hungry team moving forward and trying to do the worst that we possibly can.
Love it. And, speaking of the worst that you possibly can, obviously things did not go your way last night. Are there already plans in motion for you to rectify the wrongs, so to speak?
It's fresh. It's the wound has not yet scabbed over. It's still very open. I haven't I like a little bit of a plan, but I also like to just see what happens. So there will be repercussions. There will be retribution. Exactly what it is, I haven't yet decided. But yes, there will be a reckoning.
So have you had words to say to Sledgehammer right now? Because no doubt he's going to see your name pop up and he's probably going to give this a listen. What's something that you might want to say to him that's going to get his attention, put the hair on the back of his neck on edge?
I mean, I would just, if I was looking him in the eye, I would tell him that right now, what you have right now, enjoy it. Really, really savor this moment. Tell your friends, tell your family, take the IPW Heavyweight Championship to work, take it to bed, take it to the shower. But whatever you do, make sure you do it now because I will absolutely guarantee that you will not get the opportunity to do it again.
Those are some chilling words for Sledgehammer. I'm happy I'm not on the end of it. Who knows? Maybe in the future sometime we'll see what happens, but I can definitely see more of a team up than a altercation between me and you. So if you need a little bit of help with Sledgehammer, scroll down. You'll find me.
We'll make a call. We'll make a call.
Moving forward though, worst generation. I love the name. I am pretty like 99.99 a million 9% sure I know what that's a reference to, and I feel like we're about to talk about some anime right now. And I think those
Absolutely.
in the know, it's going to go without saying that one of us is definitely a big fan of One Piece.
Damn, if only there was some sort of physical record of exactly how much I was a fan.
Man, now I know that there are two people who are fans of One Piece. That is excellent.
Yes, yeah, the worst generation is a One Piece reference.
It's going to be difficult for people to read the tattoo, but I know that scene. And I've actually got a figurine of that scene. So just for the viewers, do you want to talk through the what it says on your arm?
Yeah, so worst generation is a term that's used in the One Piece, in the anime, in the manga. With that as well, to be honest, I am not up to date on the anime. I've always been a manga guy first, so I'm up to date there. I read it more than I watch it. But the worst generation is the term that's used in One Piece to describe the next wave of pirate captains, of pirate kings, or guys trying to become the pirate king. And it's obviously Monkey D. Luffy is a big part of the worst generation. Traffy D. Law, who is my second favorite character behind Roronoa Zoro, and it's just such a cool way to describe that because it's like shaking the foundations, and that's what they go on to do, is this upcoming generation of pirates that managed to completely change the landscape of the world. And that was part of what I wanted to take as well, when starting up the worst generation.
So, speaking of your character, your gimmick, and everything, would you say that One Piece and like other animes have definitely helped out in helping you create Chad Atlas?
Oh, 100%, 100%. I mean, for this is this is your exclusive for you as well, because I don't think I've ever actually told this story here on record. But as a fresh face rookie, as when I was on my way up and I was making decisions about where I was going to go, what I was going to do, and what I was going to call myself as well. I knew that I wanted the character to be, preppy. I wanted it to be someone that had an instant connection, right? And Chad is one of those names that just instantly you hear it and you're like, I know what this guy is like. So that was part of it. And then I wanted a strong last name. I wanted something behind it that I could put some stank into it when I say it on the microphone. So I went with Atlas. What what a lot of people don't know until I tell them is that in Yu-Gi-Oh, the secondary protagonist in Yu-Gi-Oh 5Ds starts out as the antagonist, becomes the secondary guy, is a young racer by the name of Jack Atlas. The secondary protagonist in Yu-Gi-Oh GX, the second series, is Chaz Princeton. Except if you read poorly translated Filipino manga like I did, he was Chad Princeton.
I love it. And this is
So yeah,
where
so
Chad.
that was it. It was a That's exactly where it came from. It was a bunch of other things as well as a bunch of other ideas, but that was the final nail in the coffin to make that decision there. And yeah, 100%, like anime, manga, all sorts of storytelling is storytelling, right? That's what we come down to. And there's a really great quote that I saw recently, which is pro wrestling in general is not the story. Wrestling is the medium by how you tell the story. So like looking at really, really great villains in anime and manga and TV shows, movies, whatever, there's bits and pieces that as performers, as people crafting our character and our story, we can take those bits and pieces. Like, are you familiar with My Hero Academia?
I am in love with My Hero Academia. When at the start I was not the biggest fan. I'm like, okay, I've seen this, it's been done, this is just a new take on it. But as it has evolved, it has gone very, very dark for I'd say a bunch of kids who, they're like, to put it in perspective, these kids are like 13, 14 years old, and to them, they're basically going through Attack on Titan type stuff, right? Like, it's obviously not 18 plus enough to be Attack on Titan, but I don't think that anybody has come up against as big a villain. Recently, I think you would talk about like Asta from Black Clover, because he actually has to fight legitimate
Yep.
demons, but even then, he has still had to go through like the whole school process. We're talking about like kids in school taking on adult-sized problems that are well beyond their years. And yeah, big fan of
100%.
My Hero Academia. I'm
But
big
right,
fan of
and like
Yu-Gi-Oh!
if you Yes, absolutely, absolutely. So like in My Hero, the villain, which is it's honestly it's not spoilers by this point. It's been out for ages. The villain is All for One, right? He's at the behind everything. He's the guy, and so as they go into it, 'cause I'm not 100% sure where they're up to in the anime, but the manga has concluded. It has come, and I'm not sure how close they're going to follow each other. But just the characterization and the way that All for One decides what to do and how to do things is just it's a scary villain. right? And like it's hard when you have cartoon characters in tights and colorful costumes to genuinely have an element of fear behind it, like to actually make it something that you're worried about, like this. Oh, because we know reading an anime, reading a manga, watching an anime, you know, at the end of the day, it's gonna work out, right? Like that's the suspension of disbelief you have there, and that My Hero and All for One really made you think, oh, this might not work out, and just like bits and pieces of that, and then putting that into wrestling because there's a great parallel because they're both ridiculous, right? Like anime for what they do, the rules that they have is silly a lot of the time when you really get down to what they're doing, and wrestling a lot of the time is also silly, right? When we talk about the rules and the laws that govern that universe, because it's a whole separate universe. And so being able to take uh, a character in a silly universe who's genuinely terrifying and threatening and makes you think he is going to win everything and applying that to wrestling, that's so much that I can then just take away and translate across and put into what I do as well.
Love it. I love it. Um, I know that after this podcast we're going to talk way more about anime, but right now it is a wrestling podcast. We're going to get back on the subject of wrestling, right? Moving forward,
Yes.
what are some big matches that have helped influence you?
I so as a worker, as a wrestler, I one of my favorite matches, at least recently, because my memory is shocking. So remembering specifics of matches and what one they were is not a good way, not good for me. But there's one match that I think doesn't get the credit it deserves, and it was this throwaway match on SmackDown in I think 2023, end of 2023, and I think it was like a intercontinental tournament match. It was a nothing match. It was a match that was just start of the back third of SmackDown, getting everyone ready for the main event, and it was Montez Ford wrestling LA Knight. Both incredible performers, both of them operating at just the top 0.01% physical athletes on both sides. Fantastic charisma, fantastic presence. And they didn't have much to go with. They didn't really have a lot to work on. And so at this point, LA Knight was being presented as a sort of tweener leaning towards heel. He was the villain going into the match. Montez was the babyface. And so the crowd did not accept that. They were not interested. They were not into that. They were cheering for LA Knight. They were booing Montez Ford. And watching it as a wrestler, as someone who's seen behind the curtain, who knows how the sausage is made, watching the way that the two of them looked around and they looked at the crowd and they went, fuck it. So Montez Ford started working heel. LA Knight worked face. They got to the finish. They got the finish over in a way that solidified that without ruining the creative they'd been given. And just watching that as a wrestler who tries to do that, who tries to go out there and feed off the crowd and either give them what they want or take it away from them, that was just awesome to watch. And one of the matches I recommend that anyone who's training should watch for exactly that reason.
I love it. I love it. We're very quickly and unfortunately running out of time here. Which sucks. In the back of my head, I'm like, I want these to only go for 30 minutes, but then I'm like, I love a good yarn, you know. But if it was up to me, we would just talk for 5 hours about anime, wrestling, and how shit some people in wrestling are and why we deserve our belts back, right? Um,
Absolutely. I think that one
these
I will
are the
toast
topics
to.
of discussion between wrestlers. Moving forward, though, last question before we start to wrap things up, right?
Mhm.
If somebody came up to you at an IPW show Atomic or wherever you're working, and they looked up at you and they said, I want to be a pro wrestler, what advice would you have for them about how to get into the industry, what hurdles there to overcome, and just how they should go about doing it?
The very first thing is, are you sure? Because I think that's really important. Is what we do is incredibly physically demanding. It's incredibly mentally demanding. It is a discipline, and it is something that will, if you take it seriously, will consume your entire life. So if a fresh-faced 16-year-old is coming up and asking, that's the question: is, are you sure about this? And then from there, I mean, your next step is you need to be trained. Like you cannot, there is, there are wrestlers who are what they would consider to be wrestling, which is insufficiently trained, unsafe, and unentertaining. And again, different flavors of ice cream, more power to them if that's what you're happy doing. I could never accept that for myself. So look around you, look for a school that is reputable, that is qualified, that is experienced, and start training. The we all like shut your mouth and know your role and shut your mouth, right? So if you have a preconceived notion about what you're going to be doing, get rid of it. Because you don't decide that. And if you don't know wrestling, you don't know what you can do. It might be that you are able to come up and create something that's completely brand new that you never expected. That's friggin' awesome, right? But if you've already come in, if you've already got your character, if you've already got your gear and your entrance music picked out before you start, you're handicapping yourself. You're taking away what could be because you're coming in with your own idea. So, be sure, find a good school, get rid of your preconceived notion.
Love it. I love it. Well, I want to thank you for taking a part of Wrestling on the Fly, Chad Atlas. If people want to follow you, buy your merch, stay up to date with the worst generation, how do they go about doing that?
Socials is the best way to go about it. Everything is there. I am a completely open and public book. Chad Atlas on Facebook, at the Chad Atlas on Instagram. Not yet on Twitter because that will destroy my life. So follow me there. Everything that's coming up will be there.
Excellent. And good luck getting your belt back at IPW against Sledgehammer, and maybe keep the rest of Worst Generation with their eyes on Toa before he takes over again.
Absolutely, and best of luck to yourself to finally putting the Bishop problem to bed.
Some roads are long because you choose to keep walking on them. It is what it is. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I have been Jesse Daniels. This has been Chad Atlas, and you've been watching Wrestling on the Fly. Thank you very much. Remember to like and subscribe, and to keep staying up to date with all things Queensland wrestling. Thank you.